So hello everyone, we are back with the new video, and today I'm going to start the chapter number 2 for class 9 English, the pot maker. So let's go and deep dive into the chapter. Ever since Centella became old enough to accompany her mother to the fields and forests, she began to dream of becoming a pot maker like her mother and grandmother. So we can seriously see that one of the character of the story is Centilla. Centilla is basically a girl who wishes to become a pot maker just like how her mother and her grandmother is. However, Erinla, her mother, wanted her to become a weaver. So we can see the mother's name is Erinla, and her mother didn't want her to become pot maker. Rather, she wanted Centilla to become a weaver. On days when she managed to stay at home while her parents went to the field, Centilla approached expert potters to learn the skill. So we can see that how much Centilla is excited and in awe for learning the skill or art of pottery, right? They were at first amused. Amused, what do you mean by amused? They were like entertained by the little girl's insistence, as they thought that she will soon outgrow her childish passion for the crafts. So her family felt that whatever उसकी जो भी dream है regarding और उसका desire of becoming a pot maker, ये सब उसका childish passion है, और जैसे ही she grow into a older human being, she will start developing this feeling of not liking to follow this profession. Centilla did not disclose her fascination with pot making at home, as she had overheard a conversation between her parents one night. Her mother was complaining about Centilla's indifference to weaving, that her mother was complaining the other members of the family that how Centilla is so much disinterested into weaving. She said, "I shall not teach her pot making, as it has brought no joy to me and only a pittance for my troubles." So what is the mother saying? Mother is saying that because I did not enjoy this profession at all, I was paid very meager. I was paid meager for this profession. I wasn't receiving anything as such. I don't want my daughter to go into the same trap. The riverbank where the grey and red clay required for making pots is found is 16 kilometers from here. I need to climb down a sheer drop to the riverbank, and my back aches from carrying the heavy load uphill all the way to the village. So now she is describing all her struggles of gathering the materials required, or basically the clays for the pot. Pounding the stubborn clay inside bamboo cylinders to soften it is also tedious. Again, she's describing that the process is very tiresome. So many times I've dropped the mold out of sheer exhaustion. Exhaustion means tiredness. And I have had to start all over again. It takes months to bring out a batch of pots after so much labor, and the reward of very few rupees. So it is basically a very hard core profession with very little payout. But if Centilla learns weaving, she can make much more money besides providing enough clothes for the family. Weaving is not messy like pot making and can be done indoors in all seasons. So basically, her mother feels that weaving is a bit more comfortable, easier, and money making profession, money generating profession. Also, the time spent on weaving one shawl is much less, and the return is handsome. So, is this also less time consuming and not tiresome or tedious. Santila continued her visits to watch the potters at work. She saw how the clay was mixed with water and pounded, how careful they were when they pushed their left hand with a lump of the softened clay, and how deftly they rotated the lump as they started giving shape to the rotating clay with a spatula held in the right hand. Spatula is basically, what do we call it? Spatula is basically a cooking equipment. करछी जिसे कहते हैं in Hindi. So basically she is describing the process of pot making. The regular tap of the spatula on the clay was music to her ears as she watched in fascination the pot emerging out of a shapeless lump right in front of her eyes. After 2 or 3 days, the pots would be given a final touch up to retain the required shape. To test the consistency, only then would the pots be taken out to dry in the sun before being loaded. So basically, this is a very time consuming process. Only then will the pots be taken out to dry in the sun before being loaded onto a kiln in a uniform pattern on a bed of hay and dried bamboo and covered with another layer of the same materials. And then the kiln would be fired. One had to tend the fire carefully, as overfiring or underfiring would ruin the entire batch. Arinla heard of her daughter's visits but pretended to be ignorant of them. By late afternoon, Santila had to return home quickly so that when her mother came back from the field, she would be there. Gradually, Santila's visits became a topic of village gossip. People wondered why Arinla was refusing to teach the skill to her daughter. So all the people in the village were like so much curious and worried, or maybe like wondering why is Arinla not teaching her daughter the skill of pot making. So Arinla was refusing to teach the skill to her daughter. They were worried that if all pot makers suit followed suit basically means doing the same thing as somebody else has just done, then there will be no expert potters to take their place. One day, Santila's father, Misoba, another character in the story, Misoba, was summoned by the village council and asked to explain why Arinla was refusing to pass on the skill to her daughter. He replied in a humble tone, "Uncles and elder brothers, Arinla has never said that she will not teach her daughter pot making. It is only that we wanted her to grow stronger after her illness. You will soon see Santila making the best pots in the village." After listening to Misoba's explanation, the elders decided to let him go, cautioning him to remind Arinla that it was her duty to teach her daughter the skill that was handed down from generation to generation. So it was basically villagers were questioning Arilla's decision or action of not teaching the art of pottery to Santila. They also told him that skills such as pot making, which not only cater to the needs of the people but also symbolize the tradition and history of the people, did not belong to any individual, and experts were obliged to pass on their skills not only to their own children but also to anyone who wished to learn. Misoba went home and discussed the matter with Arinla. So basically, it is a generation to generation profession which villagers thought should be passed on to the generations. The following year, Edwina took Centilla to the river bank where the grey and red clay was found. She taught Centilla how to dig the clay with a dowel, load it into her carrying basket and soak it in the throw in the work shed before stuffing it into the bamboo cylinder in the right proportion to pound it. Centella was a quick learner and turned the clay into malleable dough. So basically, the mother, Erinla, was teaching the skill of pot making to Centilla. But when she tried her hand at the shaping of the lump into a pot, she could not even hold the lump of dough properly. The mother simply sat in a corner and watched the girl try again and again. So she failed repeatedly. While Centilla hung her head in shame and frustration, Adinla took over the job and transformed the lump into a beautiful pot. These sessions continued for almost a year, but Centilla was unable to learn anything from her mother. The next year, when Centilla matured, according to custom, she was sent to stay for some nights in one of the girls' dormitories, supervised by a kind middle-aged widow whom the girls called Onula or Auntie. She had heard of the discord in Centilla's family and resolved to help to the girl in every possible way. One evening, when everyone except Centilla went to attend a musical evening, Anula saw her taking out some clay and the implements from her basket quietly. So basically, even after 1 year of constant trials, Centilla failed miserably in the art of pot making. Right? So when she went on to one week's stay as a part of the tradition or the custom of their society, the auntie or the supervisor tried to resolve the issue. She watched Centilla's clumsy efforts to make a pot and noticed that Centilla was too tense. As a result, the clay seemed unable or unwilling to yield the right shape. So basically, she was quite tensed while making the pot. When Centilla wearily let the misshapen lump fall flat on the ground, Anula went to her and said, "Don't worry, little one, I shall teach you how to make a perfect pot." Centilla watched in amazement, as amazement means joy, right? Beautiful pot, and asked her to try again. Centilla took another lump of clay and, with the confidence she had never felt before, started the process all over again. Following the instructions she had just received, she created a beautiful pot. When it was done, she sat there admiring her work, but Anula said, "The mouth of the pot is all wrong." Centilla looked at Anula in frustration, who smiled and said, "When you work with your mother next time, watch her carefully while she's shaping the mouth of the pot. You are a quick learner and you will do well." So basically, Anula is now trying to teach Centilla the art of poetry. During the next pot making session, Centilla observed how her mother held the left hand and the spatula, how she slackened the rhythm when fashioning the mouth of the pots, and how a strip of elongated dough was added to the mouth to make the rim. Then on a bright sunny day, Arella told Centilla that they should try to make as many pots as they could, otherwise they will not have enough days of sunshine to dry them. They went to the shed quite early to begin. As usual, Anilla completed a batch quickly and asked Centilla to take over. Complaining that she had a headache and a backache, she went out telling Centilla to try and make as many pots as she could. Centilla was surprised and reluctantly began to beat the dough in perfect coordination with her left hand. So basically, this is entire is a series of experiment or test by Santilla. Before long, she realized that the pot was ready. So now she successfully managed to make a pot. She started on the next one and like a sprinter. Sprinter is a one who's a racer who had suddenly found a momentum. Momentum matlab force. She continued making pot after pot with the same speed and dexterity that she had noticed in her mother's hands. Finally, when she looked at her row of pots, she saw that she had made just one short of her mother's tally. So she managed to make plenty amount of pots. Exhausted from the labor, she decided to go into the house and join her mother for lunch. When she reached the threshold, she found her mother lying on the floor. She was not breathing. Santilla ran towards the common area in the village for help. The villagers raced to the house and sent for Misoba. When Irina's body was being carried out of the house the next morning, Santilla ran after it, shouting, "Mother, I did not wish it to happen this way. It simply came to me. Please forgive me." So now basically, she thinks, Santilla thinks that her mother's illness is caused due to her unwilling desire to make her daughter a potter. Those who heard her did not understand what she meant except for Anola. She intuitively sensed that something momentous had happened. On her way back, Anola noticed that the door to the work shed was slightly ajar. Out of curiosity, she stepped inside and abruptly stopped in her tracks. Two neat rows of newly made pots sat side by side. She could find nothing to tell one batch from the other. She was sure that it was not the handiwork of one person alone. Anola stood there for a long time as if trying to absorb a new phenomena. Slowly, she walked away from this place of wonder, as she considered it to be, because she believed that she had just witnessed a profound revelation in the two batches of still moist pots standing side by side in perfect symmetry inside the shed. A new pot maker was born. So basically, Onola is just trying to understand or grasp that how can one person truly make this many pots or this tally of pots. So she was totally, in a phenomena of knowing, or maybe उनको कहीं ना कहीं पता लग गया था that this is not a work of one single person. So now she found it out that such a great mastery and symmetrical design made. So now she considered that a new pot maker was born, which was Santilla. And that's how Santilla turned into a pot maker. So this story is written by Temsula Au. This is basically a shortened version of the original story. That was it about the story, and when we'll come to the important questions, I will tell you the important questions. These 7 questions are important for exam point of view. And if you find any difficulty in any of these questions, you can reach out to me in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. and have a nice day.